And welcome to Conservative Talk.
And we're continuing our series with candidates for GAGOP Executive Committee. And we're bringing to you right now Marci McCarthy, who's also running for first vice chair. Stay tuned.
But before that, there's one thing I have to do before I forget about it. Happy St. Patrick's Day. And welcome back to Conservatives Talk. My name's Justin.
And this is Jamie.
And as always, we want to take a moment to remind our viewers to make sure they're hitting the like button and the share button on any of the content that they run across any of the platforms that we release our content on, as well as making sure you hit that subscribe button. That way you'll always stay up to date on any of the productions that we produce, and you'll never miss a single episode of anything that Jamie and I have to do that will affect your everyday life and will control and dominate every aspect of your life. We also want to take a moment to remind our viewers to go to our website at conservativestalk.org and hit that sponsor tab in the upper right-hand corner or the lower right-hand corner and help us out with what you're able to, because every little bit goes an incredibly long way to allowing Jamie and I to be able to spread our message to eventually, one of these days, infect the world, take it over, and make sure that every right or every wrong has been righted and that we are the dominant society.
It's like when the Daily Show says they invented news.
A little bit of that.
Whatever.
Well, when we take over the world, we can dictate whether or not they did.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, Jamie, would you like to give your first reminder?
Boycott hometown headlines. Don't forget it. Liberal media is garbage. It's fake news, and we got to get it out of Northwest Georgia. So remember, your one task is to continue the hashtag boycott hometown headlines and stop subscribing to them.
Well, that's one of the one tasks.
That's the main task right now.
Well, to go to the website and sponsor so we can eventually take over the world and get rid of it anyway.
I mean, I get that, but to me right now, it's secondary to getting liberal media out of Northwest Georgia.
Semantics. so we want to take a quick moment to recognize our affiliates, and our first one being Net News Network. So you can find Net News Network at netnewsnetwork.net. It is a compilation of grassroots newscast producers to where you can stay up to date on things going on the ground level all across the nation. So make sure you are checking out netnewsnetwork.net for your local news from across the nation. We also want to say a quick thank you to Veterans for America First, the premier America First policy organization, where you will only find people who are trying to advance the America First policy. And they do that through their media arm being Vet Voice. So make sure you are looking for Vet Voice on every major social media platform to find America First policy content producers. So, Jamie, let's do this.
We have, like we said before, a very special guest. We're continuing with our series for candidates for GAGOP, and we have Marci McCarthy getting ready to run for first vice chair. So, Justin, you want to bring Marci in?
Miss Marci, can you hear me?
I can. It's so great to be with you guys tonight, especially happy St. Patty's Day to everybody.
Happy St. Patrick's Day. How are you?
Good. I've got my green on. I'm ready to go.
Yeah, likewise.
I get pitched today, but
he's spoiling my plans. But so we wanted to reach out to you and invite you to come onto the show because we are reaching out to all the candidates that are running throughout the state party, because we know firsthand just the importance of what the state party has as far as their role goes in upcoming campaigns and just elections in general. And you being a candidate running for first vice chair for the GAGOP, we wanted to give you the opportunity to really tell our listeners of exactly who you are and what your plans are with that. So if you wouldn't mind, would you go ahead and give us kind of what your political resume is?
Certainly. First, thanks for having me on tonight. And I love the fact that you're reaching out to all the different candidates so everyone has an opportunity to learn a little bit more about them. Mm-hmm. Georgia certainly is a very large state, and I'm trying to get out there as much as possible.
Oh, yeah.
And I have an appreciation actually for many of our statewide candidates out on the campaign trail after embarking on this. But to give you a little bit of background about me, I have been the chair of the DeKalb County Republican Party, and I was just reelected for my second term unanimously and endorsed at our convention last week for first vice chair. So it is so exciting just to be with everybody. But I've been very involved with the Georgia GOP for several years now. I serve on the Board of Governors, where we are the foundation, where we're fundraising and the financial arm of the organization. I've also been involved with the 4th District of Georgia through our Georgia GOP. And I was very proud to be a delegate, a national delegate for the National RNC Convention in 2020, although the experience is a little different than traditional conventions because we were in the middle of COVID. But I was invited to the White House to have to sit on the White House lawn and I watched President Trump accept his nomination for the 2020 presidential cycle. And my husband back and I in 2016 were really inspired by President Trump, in his campaign when he ran, he announced his running when he came down the escalator, but we later became part of the Presidential Inauguration Committee, and we were very honored to help underwrite the inauguration.
That's super exciting.
Wow.
Yeah, very impressive.
I've heard stories about the inauguration. It not only was it the COVID aspect, but also the violent nature of a lot of the they called them protesters, but I have other words for them that were surrounding the event as well. So,
well, actually, we the night of January 20th, 2017, I of course was in Washington D.C. and got to see President Trump inaugurated on the congressional lawn. That was amazing. Go to the parade. My husband and I walked back to our hotel, and we were walking through what we later learned was an Antifa sort of compound outdoor camping. I don't know what they were doing. And then that evening on inauguration night, we went to the ball and we were dressed to the nines and everything like that. But we were actually attacked by a mob of people wearing black clothing. I didn't know what they were called, to be honest with you. And it was scary because this is a peaceful transition of power. And the fact of the matter is nobody talks about that, but I was thrown into a chain link fence and separated from my husband. I was with a whole bunch of civilians dressed up for the evening and women and children. And I watched a little girl pushed to the ground and separated from her mom. My husband tried to help them. It was one of the most scariest moments of my life. That night we made our way peacefully to the inaugural ball. We were a little late, but fortunately we were not harmed in any way. And I was very grateful for the riot police that had to come in and put themselves between us and these horrible people that we later learned called Antifa. After the ball that night, we went back to our hotel completely exhausted because we were there for several days prior. It was the most incredible experience ever. But we were exhausted. So we slept probably for 12 hours. And you don't really eat during an inauguration either. There's very little food opportunities. And you don't really want to have to figure out how to go to the restroom. So you don't go on a starvation diet. But so we crashed hardcore, after getting back to our hotel. And then we woke up probably 12 hours later, starving. And we stepped outside and it was a sea of pink female part hats and clothing everywhere. And it was like, what happened to Washington, D.C.? We made our way over to a burger joint and watched Madonna on TV talk about blowing up the White House, which was just a few blocks away, and all these crazy nuts around us, and the Starbucks and the, across the street from the Starbucks that I wanted to grab some coffee at, the Bank of America building branch, I should say, was completely scorched and burned in the limo that they showed on the news as well. And we saw that limo the night before. So the fact of the matter is we woke up to completely a different Washington, D.C. than we went to sleep the night before.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a heck of a story with that.
Yeah, thank God everyone was okay.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
that's a intense experience for. I mean,
well, it was repeated.
I couldn't fathom.
I was repeated there because when I got invited to the White House to go to the RNC convention to see President Trump, accept the nomination for President of the United States again. That was the night that Black Lives Matter decided to take over Washington, D.C. And Rand Paul, you might recall, and his wife were attacked. We were with them earlier in the day. It was the scariest night of trying to get home. So we were leaving the White House lawn in a very secure area. They put us on buses to take us back to the Trump Hotel. We had to stay on the Trump bus. On the buses, I should say, for several hours. They finally left us at the Trump Hotel, but we weren't staying at that property because they didn't have enough rooms. So we had to make our way back through barricades and blockades back to the hotel that we were staying at. My hotel happened to be on Black Lives Matter Plaza. So getting back to our hotel was a whole nother experience. So we called our hotel, and 5 security guards had to come and take my friend and I out of the car on each side and basically drag us in or carry us inside to the hotel. And the hotel was barricaded because there was a protest following the next morning.
Wow.
Wow. Wow.
I mean, there's really nothing else that really sums any of that up other than wow.
Yeah. Talk about being right in the thick of it. That's in.
My motto is living history in the front row. And
yeah.
Well, you definitely did that. That's for sure.
Because like these coups, these factions have kind of changed. It was like Occupy the 98% or Occupy Wall Street and the Occupy movement. Then it became, Antifa, and then Splinter of Black Lives Matter was off of it. And then you have all these other little surge groups, but all of them seem to be violent and doing the same thing. And so that's wild because we rarely talk about, like, I haven't been to any of those, but we rarely talk about what it would be like to be in that experience at that time. And hearing it firsthand is terrifying. Like, there's no other way to put it. It's terrifying.
I'm glad we can laugh about it, but it was one of those are the two most terrifying experiences I've ever had. Overall. And when they talk about a crowd going, bad really quickly and violent, I didn't really understand what that meant until the inauguration and then seeing and experiencing it firsthand during the RNC convention.
Wow. Well, that kind
I know we went off at a totally different.
Oh, no.
I'm glad.
Not at all.
Like,
no,
absolutely. I'm still kind of shell shock at the moment. You know what I mean? Because I always try to put myself in other people's shoes and put myself in your shoes in that situation.
And I'm 5 feet and I wear, high heels. So
yeah, like
in these environments, I have my concealed permit, my concealed carry permit. Lifelong member of the NRA, and I'm very involved with the NRA Women's Leadership Forum. And I'm a clay shooter. So the fact of the matter is I was an unarmed lady in a ball gown. It scared out of my wits.
Yeah, DC isn't fun anyway. Like, the homeless terrified me just by itself.
Yeah, it's definitely changed. The many times that I've been up there in the past couple of years, it's gone from being somewhat of a decent place to just really exactly what Trump described as being some of the third world countries, just a massive shithole.
This is a very
go to San Francisco sometime. Go to San Francisco sometime, and that's a whole other conversation.
You know what? I'll have to take your word for that.
I'm not going to California.
That kind of leads us to jump into the next question we want to ask. Given all of this that you have experienced with a lot of this, why is it that you are wanting to still be involved with the party? What's driving you to move towards continuing your involvement with it?
Well, I'm even more inspired. I'm a patriot and certainly a proud American. I live in the second bluest county in the state of Georgia, the 4th largest county. So, what's really inspiring to me is actually going after and fighting Democrats, as I am right now. I do all the time. I'm sort of their worst nightmare, and I love that. I'm stopping one of the people with Ground Zero with Zuckerbucks 2.0 happening not my backyard, but in my yard, quite frankly. And that happened, on January 30th, when Decatur did an interview with our elections board chair talking about how she defied the spirit of SB 202 by telling the CFO of the county to go ahead and apply for a grant and then give it to us elections office overall. So my last few weeks, quite frankly, have been completely insane with hearings and testifying overall, and working with different national election and local election integrity groups with our elected officials, our lieutenant governor, Senator Max Burns, our state representatives, state senators, trying to get a bill introduced, and we did. It went into the Senate hopper on February 21st, and this bill, SB 222, quite likely will pass this week. So you have to think about the time frame, and it's a clean bill. Mm-hmm. We didn't think there was a Zuckerbucks. Nobody thought there was a loophole in our SB 202. Maybe a few people kind of realized it, but the Democrats went and exploited it and did DeKalb County as its testing ground. And the fact of the matter is, we probably will hopefully stop it from metastasizing throughout Georgia. And even better, that this law, if passed, will make it a criminal felony by a jail sentence of a minimum of 1 year if you try to go down the shenanigans again, and pay a minimum of $10,000 a fine. Good. And they have to give the money back. And we actually are funding our state elections board, which was not funded actually in SB 202. So this has been a wonderful experience, but this is a sign of a great example of my leadership. And on top of that, I've opened a open records request, which DeKalb County has not complied with, and filed a complaint with the Secretary of State's office, the State Board of Elections, and the Attorney General's office. And we now have an investigation underway of these individuals that partaked in a nefarious conspiracy to bring Zuckerbucks to Georgia. So we might get a two-path there of a double whammy, but no Zuckerbucks by law with a criminal penalty, and the people that are actually facilitated it and used DeKalb County as a testing ground might, have some penalties of their own.
Well, so you mentioned the whole Zuckerbucks thing, and you mentioned SB 222. Can you give us kind of a little bit of history behind that, as far as what is Zuckerbucks, how did it come about, and and really the whole process behind that, as far as what led up to you taking on this fight?
Yeah. What is going on at DeKalb, and how did you all recognize it so that other counties and other elections office can be on the lookout to protect ourselves?
Well, the good news is your county can't accept any kind of third-party grant from any organization if SB 222 goes through. So the only people or organizations that can accept any type of money is your state of Georgia, and it has to come from funneled through the State Board of Elections, and then in an equitable manner, it would be distributed, and the money would need to come from the federal government. So, or the state, but the state can still accept third-party money, but it cannot distribute it to a single county, and a county cannot go say, hey, Zuckerbucks, or in the Democrats' argument that Arnold Schwarzenegger apparently gave out money or something like that. So we can't go to Arnold Schwarzenegger and ask for cherry picking of a county. That is illegal from any third-party entity of any persuasion, whether you're a Democrat, Republican, nonpartisan. They like to talk about it being nonpartisan, but they cherry pick these counties overall. So how did I find out about this? The most important job of a county GOP chair, at least I perceive it to be, is appointing your board of election representatives. And in my first term of being the DeKalb chair, I reappointed Anthony Lewis, who had been the only Republican really on our elections board that was completely outnumbered because of his we have two that we're allowed to have, and the other one was a Democrat in disguise. And then the other one that I did point was Nancy Jester, who was a county commissioner in DeKalb County. She was one of the very last Republicans actually to hold office. And she's an expert in finance overall and the inner workings of DeKalb County. So I paired them up on the elections board. And they, on January 27th, actually learned for the very first time that there was a grant coming through the DeKalb County from CTCL, which is just another arm of, Zuckerbucks. They have these names of, they look all like patriotic and everything like that. So you kind of think, oh, they seem like really nice people. But the reality is it's a membership organization disguised, but it's in disguise. So it's complete like pyramid or Ponzi scheme where you pay them, the county elections office or county pays a membership fee. And now you're part of this special group, and then you're awarded, your elections office becomes a center of excellence. Yay. And then you're eligible to perhaps apply for some grants. And then you're given access to a private consortium of unvetted vendors, which is bypassing any type of public bidding process. And the menu of services are from election operations, consulting, website, training, legal services, everything of a shadow SOS, set up shop without any kind of checks and balances or any kind of, compliance whatsoever. Wow. Yeah.
Wow.
And so they looked at it for the first time, and it gets better, okay? Because this application was applied for in May of 2022. By the CFO at the direction of the elections board chair, said, hey, you go fill it out. So we got a copy of the grant application. And in the application, they wanted to remain anonymous. They were answering questions on behalf of the state of Georgia, Secretary of State's office. But they did refer the Clayton County elections director and said, hey, you can use my name when you call over there because, let's get some money. They can also be it can issue sub-grantors. So the fact of the matter is, if, we didn't stop this now, they could have given some money over to Clayton, and they could have funneled some money over to Fulton and, in Chatham and all your little counties that are a lot more bluer than your counties where you guys are. So then they said on the application that they couldn't afford their elections. They had no money for, voting stickers, like I voted today, peach stickers, but I would love a building and I would love a car.
Wow, that sounds like one of the biggest money laundering schemes I've
well, that's what it is.
Wow.
Yeah. It's a Ponzi scheme. Like that hit the nail on the head.
Money. Yeah, you give money and you get more money back. It's like a Nigerian princess, right? Give me $2,000 and I'll give you $2 million back.
Yeah, and then your preferred friend, like if they shot money over to Clayton, they probably would have got more money if they'd applied for more.
I bet you they get a referral fee.
Yeah. And then they would just pass it around all the metro county areas. God Almighty, that sounds awful.
Well, it's a good thing if there's a piece of legislation that's going to stop that.
Yeah. I mean, thank you for letting our viewers know, because our viewers love to lobby. So our viewers will definitely be at the Capitol trying to make sure that they can help get that effort now that they know about it.
At least calling their state reps, that's for sure.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah, so we need every Republican to vote for this. This week.
Yeah. I want to kind of switch gears a little bit, though, and I want to ask, why are you running for first vice chair?
Well, a lot of the great things that we did in DeKalb County. So first and foremost, most people write us off, okay, because we are the second bluest county. I get a bless your heart or thank you or why are you doing this? You're crazy. But the fact of the matter is your highly densely areas have the greatest opportunity. So while we have over 100,000, believe it or not, right-leaning Republican voters, we have actually tapped into that voter pool. this cycle in 2022, the midterm cycle, we doubled Republican voter turnout in our primary from 2018 by putting 25 candidates on the primary ballot and taking all the way to the general, and had 17 candidates there on the ballot. So for the first time in decades, they actually had Republicans to vote for, which increased the margins of victory for all of our statewide candidates by tens of thousands of votes. So if we replicate this with a model of getting good quality candidates out there in places that are not so easy to run overall, we can inspire Republicans to come out and vote during a primary and then vote again in a general.
That's a very unique perspective on that, and quite frankly, not one that we've heard from many of the candidates that we've done the show with, and we've done several, actually the majority of them. One of our big things is increasing voter turnout, and that thought and that idea is very unique. I'll go ahead and tell you that
she built the model.
Yeah.
Which is interesting, because no one else can kind of, we asked the question like Justin was saying, but no one else can kind of point to something that they did that actually was successful.
Yeah. It's all about them wanting to get voters out more, but nothing about how it's been done successfully and in a very blue place. We've had guests come on that have talked about others who have recruited candidates to run against Republicans, but leaving very Democrat seats wide open. But from what I understand, you are essentially almost kind of taking the reverse application of that model and not really trying to run against Republicans, but running slates across the entire county and really stocking the ballot with Republicans as opposed to cherry picking Republicans that you wouldn't like.
Well, that kind of get everybody enthusiastic about it.
Yeah, and really giving them more options than what they had.
Yeah.
Well, for the first time in DeKalb County, they had an option to vote for a Republican and pull a Republican ballot. So that's how we doubled the Republican voter turnout overall, because they actually had to come. They came out to vote for a down ballot candidate for the first time. They would be the only candidate on the ballot in the primary. And we underwrote their qualifying fees if they were in that situation. And most of our candidates, quite frankly, were first-time candidates and didn't have, deep campaign pockets and campaign consultants. We became the campaign infrastructure for all those candidates. So we set up a Sunday boot camp. I had brought in speakers galore for media training, speaking, public speaking, how to build out a campaign, what the data, how to leverage the data and how to get the data, how to use the tools, how to build your campaign team, how to fundraise. So we literally took the entire primary cycle, because they were all running unopposed, and taught them how to be candidates, how to give a 2-minute pitch, how to give a 5-minute pitch, how to do a debate. And we became a family and worked tirelessly. And then we became their campaign ground game. In addition, I fundraised and we created an investors program in DeKalb County, GOP, where outside the membership fee, but on a reoccurring basis, we have people giving $25 or $50 a month like I said, every single month coming in. So we built up our coffers. So we were able to do paid advertising on Facebook, very familiar. I own a marketing and events company in the cybersecurity industry. So I really do understand data. I really do understand digital. I understand technology and cybersecurity. So I took what I know in the business world and running a business. I run this company. And applied it to running the DeKalb GOP. And I can take that to the Georgia GOP because I know all those things and I can speak to them because we have done them in a very blue county. The fact of the matter is we made Democrats in what they thought was their safe space in a blue county work harder and actually work for the first time and had to spend money on themselves, like their down ballot candidates, and they couldn't go spend money on Stacey Abrams. That took away tens of thousands of votes from her because, again, we brought out the Republican Party from the down ballot candidate, inspired by the down ballot candidates. We can replicate this statewide and focus on actually what we should be doing as a political party is fighting Democrats, not each other.
That right there. I am. I will say personally, I'm surprised that you're running for first vice chair rather than chair, because from interviewing everyone that we have, it's come out that the first vice chair serves at the pleasure of the chair. Well, what you laid out right there, everything that you've done, everything right there, that takes true leadership when it comes to party and really pushing a platform and pushing a message and pushing candidates, really pushing everything that is Republican. I'm surprised that you didn't decide to run for chair with that, quite frankly.
Well, here's why, okay? My crew in DeKalb County still needs me, and they didn't want me to leave. So if I were to run for state chair, I couldn't really run for re-election in DeKalb County. And when you're building an organization, you don't have a succession plan in place. So my deal with them, and then my husband and my company was I would do the first vice chair in a dual role with the DeKalb GOP chairman. And quite frankly, I think I can have more of an impact because I am a county chair. I work with all the other county chairs, especially in the metro area. We work together. I have working relationships with all these different county chairs across the board. So what my opponents don't have those working relationships. I have all these county chairs on speed dial, quite frankly, and on signal channels that we operate on our own in, not like, with 20 million people on there, like hating on each other. We actually get stuff done. I'm in a base camp group with them, which is a technology platform to communicate. So we have all different methods, and we have text messages just going to each other. So the fact of the matter is I'm already working with the county chairs on a daily basis, because what we have found, quite frankly, is the state party doesn't do a lot for us. We have had to do everything, and we're not a year-round organization, which I found to be extremely troubling, and I found it really maddening right now. So in the going into the midterms, last time we had staff that worked at the Georgia GOP for Georgia Victory coming in, helping us set up the data and teaching people poll watching and how to go canvass your communities. And we also had, different partnerships set up with like Greater Georgia. I brought everybody in for our training. And then what we did, and we also restored fitness, faith, integrity, and trust in our elections by working and setting up a stakeholders group with the Democrats, the election office leadership, our board of elections, and sitting down and having working group sessions for several hours with set agendas and defined rules of engagement as outcomes of how we're going to, the poll watching, for example, we, for the first one in the entire state, did a rolling poll watching credentialing cycle. So on a weekly basis, because when you have 19 days of early voting, do you really know as a volunteer that you might be available on day 16? Your kid might get sick or something like that. Well, what I proposed to them is, can we turn it in by Thursday, 4:00 for the following week, and they can pick up their credentials on Friday afternoon? It worked. And the fact of the matter is we had better retention and participation. We also partnered in the runoffs for this elections with the National Senate Republican Committee, and actually were able to pay a lot of our poll watchers, almost all of them, in the runoff on election day. So I want to seek out more partnerships like this and empower our volunteers and help fund them, because being a poll watcher for 12 hours a day and not get paid for it, you might be absolutely a great American, but the fact of the matter is you have to put food on your table with your family and take care of your family. So we've got to find other ways of thinking outside of the box. And so here we are right now going into a presidential campaign cycle. And I don't have any of these people that I did in 2021 going into 2023. Quite frankly, I have zero. I have no election integrity people other than the people that I built relationships with to help me get through the SB 222 Zuckerberg kind of crisis. And that's all like national people that care that Georgia is a battleground state for 2022. So quite frankly, Georgia GOP has been very dormant for the last several months. So now when we go back after we're elected, and it takes us 6 months to get elected. So now you're looking at July, month 7. The Democrats have already, been like tweaking their infrastructure and recruited their paid operatives and whatever. And here we are. So, after July 4th, because, that's probably when we'll get it together. We'll start, can we hire, some field directors or something like that? And who's managing our data? Who's updating the data right now overall? So maddening to me that we stop and start and rebuild. We build cars, okay? We're not building wheels, we're rebuilding cars. And now we're talking about electric cars in Georgia, right?
Yeah, so, that's a touchy subject.
This is stupid. Like, why do I run a company and I can't be a seasonal business per se? In our downtime, I've got to figure out ways to optimize my company to remain competitive. And why can't we do that for the Georgia GOP?
That's absolutely. So I'm the county chair here for Floyd, and you kind of answered some questions that, I've been racking my brain out at the last couple of months of, we've had some great people work with us in the local area from GAGOP, but like they all end up coming in. We'll spend, a couple months with them in the cycle, and then everything at GAGOP shuts down, and then they go, to another state or go work somewhere else. And then we look at, I will just say this. Writing 120, 140 credential letters in the span of a week to get them all out and try to have them cover the entire election cycle is awful. So hearing that there's another method that could be used to try to do it like the week before or things like that.
But are you even able to vet we have to have a better process because we are trying to vet these people, but some of them are really good people, but we've never met them or seen them before. So we have to go into the data center. We go into the GOP data center, verify what their voting record is overall. We did this for every single poll watcher, both paid and volunteer. And we had full participation because of all the work that we've done to restore fitness in our county. And if we couldn't really figure out their voting record, we go start looking on them on social media and things like that, just to make sure that they had our shared values and they were not an operative. That takes a lot of time. We had a couple people doing this like for hours in the day, again, as volunteers. Why aren't we? And then the sign-up geniuses that we had to create for the poll watching schedules. Why aren't we templating this out there for each of our counties and running this through a spreadsheet upload? We know how many precincts we all have. I have 191 and they tweak them, but there's maybe about 90% of them are the same ones every time. And there's about 10% that might change in the early voting ones, but you basically can, do a few manual edits that way, but why aren't we doing this statewide for all of our county GOPs? Not everybody is a technologist and understands digital. So I believe the Georgia GOP should be a service organization for our candidates as well as our county GOPs.
And you thought 27 were bad.
This is absolutely. I'm writing down like things that I'm getting ready to try to implement that I'm taking from what you've done.
Well, you can call me anytime.
Because I'm like, wow, this solves so many problems that I've been having over the last year and a half as being chair.
But why are you figuring this out by yourself? That's correct.
Because there's no one at the state party currently to kind of work through this with you.
Well,
wouldn't it be nice to have an account manager is your field director? And then you work in a centralized fashion, and then you leverage something like what we did in DeKalb, and we can roll that out on a statewide basis and not put the burden of expense of some of these licensing fees and get better pricing with Sign Up Genius for multiple seats.
Right. Again, it sounds like impressed. She's got a great plan that's been implemented and has proven to be successful. So I want to give a real quick opportunity real fast to kind of give us the bullet pointed answer of where you see, I guess, what would be the best was it? What would you do differently from your first day in that seat for first vice chair moving forward, what would you do differently than what's being currently been done? And I know you gave a lot of that in your previous answer with that, but what I'm asking for is just kind of the bullet pointed list. That way people can really take that and digest it and then come back and listen to it with a more detailed ear of exactly what it is and how you would get this done.
Yeah, your 100-day top priorities.
Yeah, so let's exactly like you said, what would be your 100-day priority list with this?
Well, first and foremost, it's time we reinvent the Georgia GOP. This is not your grandfathers. This is not Ronald Reagan's party. We need younger people. We need people that, well, of any age that are motivated to actually get work done. I'm tired of the people in this party that, quite frankly, just want to have titles and do nothing. Overall, Amen. I get stuff done. Okay, I built a company from scratch. I grew up in a small town in Western Massachusetts. People, I earn my way. I earn my opportunities based on, my reputation, my fact that I over deliver overall, and I get stuff done. People call me a fireball. So let me answer your question. Okay, I'm going to tear the place upside down. And actually put an actual infrastructure in place. I will absolutely support whoever's chair, and I will be your best first chair, because actually I'm not waiting to take direction from my chair, because I actually can run a company. I run a county GOP, and what I can do is add value from the very first day that you elect me as your first vice chair. I'm familiar with technology, not familiar. I'm an expert in it. I'm in the cybersecurity industry. I own a company, and I took a GOP that literally was in the ashes, that people will kind of laugh if we could fill two people, maybe filling it in a booth at some Waffle House somewhere that nobody knew. And now we have a sold out breakfast with Doug Collins coming tomorrow morning.
Wow. Well, I would say that your description of what others say, you being someone who over delivers, is underqualified in that response. To be honest with you, kind of undersells exactly what it is that you do for producing for your role.
I've talked with a lot of people, and this is something truly GOP needs. It's time to really take us into the 21st century, get more young people involved, think of more innovative ways, get our candidates noticed, get our candidates out there, and not just the candidates, get them out there. We actually need to inspire people to run. Absolutely,
that's truer than anything.
Recruit and cultivate them.
Absolutely,
because it's a daunting task to put yourself out there and all of a sudden start, asking for money and fundraising and going door to door and say, vote for me. I mean, the people that we recruited to do this time had never in a million years ever considered themselves a politician. And if you ask them today, if they think they're one, they would still tell you no.
Well, I mean, that's the type that's needed.
What to elect is not career politicians, is people actually that want to get something done and represent the people.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. So something that just kind of popped in my head a little bit right there. You said that you are an expert with cybersecurity. One of the things that Jamie and I have been talking about in some of our previous shows is this whole notion of of the AI experience with the chat and the GPP or the GTT
chat GPT.
Yeah, coming up. The fact that could be then utilized in campaign messaging through really pushing and promoting for, let's be honest, the Democrats have us over a barrel when it comes to technology and infrastructure and things on that nature. If they were to utilize something like that would really hurt us in a statewide effort. And the fact that you are experienced and very knowledgeable in that area alone would be a great qualification moving into one of these leadership positions.
Yeah. Do you start with more basics? Have you ever been to the GeorgiaGOP.org website?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. The 80s are calling and they want their front page website back.
That's it.
Fair point. Fair point. Fair point.
Go to my website, marcimccarthy.us or decabgop.org, and I'll show you what a website should look like.
Yeah. That's the first thing I did as chairs. We came in and we canceled our contract with our previous vendor and redid our entire website. And now you can go to our website and see anything or get any link from wherever you need to go to get in touch with a rep, find out where your precinct is, get a hold of
rules for the party, the whole
everything. And so like that, those are the things. I guess kind of what we're trying to talk about too is there's been a light conversation of, integrating AI and how do we use that? Do you see that in the future? Or
well, I mean,
I know the baby step, but
no, I mean, you want to use your business intelligence, your data optimization overall. So we did do Facebook advertising, going down to the geography level, down to street levels and neighborhoods overall. We use that data actually to employ a paid canvassing company to go out for us and cherry pick the doors we wanted to go inspire that were low propensity voters. So we used that data and created a message for them in our materials that was kitchen table politics oriented and not screaming hardcore Republican red in a place that's mostly blue. So even the coloring of our materials was a reddish color of purple on everything that we did, and very subtly had the DeKalb Republican Party there. We were there, but it was not so ostentatious because we have to expand the tent. Okay. We have to be inclusive, not exclusive. And especially in a place where we are outnumbered from 5 to 1, but we took it from 3 to 1.
I mean, again,
powerful,
coming up with an ingenious way of really having a game plan and effectively making it work and pulling through with it and making it to where it does produce results. So I mean, I got to say that's impressive.
You have to build a communications plan, and I'm really good at that. I've connected with all sorts of media out there across the board, and I will do interviews with anybody. Like I'm not afraid.
Obviously,
I've done New York Times, I've done CNN, I've done Gateway Pundit. I mean, I'm always on John Frederick's show. So you have to
man. I like John.
I love him too. He's a very dear friend of mine, and
ours as well.
You'll have to tell him Justin and Jamie said hello next time you're on.
I sure will. I'm going to actually send him this video.
There you go.
There you have it. But he's 100% behind my campaign overall, and he really kind of sought me out and believed in me. And he loves to tell a funny story of how we came down Peachtree Road and she took the crown out of the gutter. He has a whole narrative to it when he has me come on the show, and I just sort of I used to be like, oh my God, but now it's kind of I just laugh. But you have to talk to different audiences. So you're not going to change hearts and minds out of the gate by screaming that you hate each other or you want to see each other. But what brings us together is common ground of shared values and views. And you find that common ground, and that's where you start to connect and build that trust. Right now, the Georgia GOP has very little trust rating across the state with our elected officials down at the Capitol, overall. All the way to the fact that somebody, that has just really feels very disconnected. And I had met a man on a plane the other day that saw that I was working on some stuff for getting ready for one of our DeKalb GOP meetings. So he certainly saw glanced at my work on my computer briefly. And then he asked me about, you seem to be involved in politics. And I said, yeah. And he said, I'm a diehard Republican, but the party has just so offended me and alienated me. And I said, why is that? Because he's like, I don't trust it anymore. And so he went on a rant. The poor guy was in a middle seat on a long flight and, wanted to share his frustration. And I just listened and I offered some insights. I gave him my card. And I said, call anytime, but I hope you realize that, you're not alone out there. And that's why I am running for Georgia GOP first chair, is to expand our party and reach new people that have our shared values, so that we stay red as a state, that we take back the White House, that we retain our majority in the General Assembly. We cannot take any of this for granted overall. we're in a battleground state, and we've got to hit it from every angle, from ensuring fitness, faith, integrity, and trust in our elections, communicating with new voters that are younger, more diverse overall, and that have our values again, and find new ways to connect with them. Because, I really never want to see a postcard that is hideously designed show up at my house 5 and 7 days later after an election took place.
Yeah.
There were too many candidates that happened to this year.
Yes.
Because of poor planning, poor communication, poor consulting.
And I will say,
the post office on everything. How about you use a text message and an email, or a Facebook or Instagram or some other social media platform, and actually if they've opened it, read it, and clicked on it, versus waiting if they actually got it 5 or 7 days later and threw it in the trash.
And only 15% of those mailers actually are even recognized or seen by anybody. It typically goes from the mailbox straight to the trash can without any sort of acknowledgement with that. But I will say you are proving to be every bit of an almost an overachiever as what you described, because you just hit on one of the questions that I was about to ask, and that being we're seeing kind of a growing factionalization in the Republican Party, and what would you do in your leadership role in order to correct this? And I think you hit the nail on the head, and that is making sure that we are the open big tent party that we are supposed to be. So I have, and I don't know if Jamie has any more, but I've got one more question for you. What role do you see that the party has in the state of Georgia? What do you see as being what function that the state party needs to play in politics in Georgia?
We need to be center stage. We need to be a service-oriented organization that cultivates and recruits winning candidates. We need to reach new voters that have moved here and figure out an outreach program that connects with the different types of demographics, and depending upon where they live, what they're doing, but utilizing that data and that data infrastructure to connect with them. We need to empower and train our grassroots so that they feel ready and confident to go out there and connect with their communities overall, and ensure all of our elections are with fitness, faith, integrity, and trust in them. Because if you don't trust your election across the board and have a working relationship with your elections office like we do, even though some of the crazy that we're dealing with, we still have a working relationship with them right now. They're probably really pissed at me and want to throw mud at me, but right now they do kind of be mean, try to be mean on me on Twitter, but I don't really care. That's the fun part. Badge of honor, bring it on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Bring it on. If I'm rattling your cage, I'm doing my job. And if you're talking about me at your meetings, I'm doing my job.
Absolutely with that. Well, Jamie, do you have any other questions?
I don't. I'm just highly impressed. And again, thank you for putting your neck out there to run for not only county chair, but run for, first vice chair of the state party. Some of the things you've outlined are really, truly innovative when it comes to what we need in GAGOP to kind of push us in the 21st century. And I look forward to seeing you at state convention.
I can't wait to see y'all in person. So thank you very much.
Absolutely. Well, we sincerely appreciate you coming on and really kind of talking and telling our viewers who you are and what you're running for and everything on that line. So one more thing before we do go with this, and I want to give you an opportunity real fast to make a pitch to the delegates that are going to be attending in June. What would you like to tell them?
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity. I look forward to seeing all of you in Columbus, Georgia on June 9th and 10th. When you're voting for your first vice chair, I hope that you'll vote for Marci McCarthy, and that's Marci, M-A-R-C-I, McCarthy, MCCARTHY.US. But I would love to come down or to your county GOP. I've been out there, your Republican women's group. I'd love to meet you before then and come and to connect with all of you. I'm happy to answer anybody's questions. My email address is Marci, M-A-R-C-I, @marcimccarthy.us. I love people and I love connecting with people. So I am what you see here overall. And I think I am your future with the Georgia GOP.
Well, I will say what we are seeing and hearing is incredibly impressive.
Yeah.
So again, we want to say thank you for coming on, and we are sincerely looking forward to being able to speak with you in person.
Well, thank you for having me tonight, and happy St. Patty's Day, everybody. Get some green beer.
You as well.
Have a great evening.
All right. Have a good evening. All right. So I have to say that was, as I said multiple times in that interview, that was truly impressive.
That was a lot more than I really honestly expected it to be. No offense to her or anybody else, but those are things that I felt for a long time is the direction that the party needs to go in, because we already have the infrastructure, the underlying infrastructure to implement these things right out of the gate, as long as we had the leadership that would allow it.
And she's definitely taking things by the reins there.
Nothing to tout the current leadership, because, you know what I mean? I mean, just being honest, like there's some aspects of the current leadership that I'm a major fan of, but, you know, sometimes you have to kind of just, you know, take a leap and move into other forms of technology, messaging, and that's
doing things.
That's just some of the things that we have to kind of, you know, get ready to take the reins on. And like she said, it's time to get some new, fresh ideas, more young people involved in the state party at large, not just your YRs. And now's the time to really take the turn and take not just GAGOP, but the Republican Party to the next level.
Mm-hmm. No, so in all honesty, that I got to say, she really wowed me with that. I really
There's some other things that, you know, I have a hard time keeping my mouth shut, but there's some things that I really want to say right now. But as I've learned in the past,
Jamie's been taking notes on everything that what she had been talking about to implement.
Yeah, like I'm gonna use it. Some of those stuffs here in Floyd County, and you know, there's some people who watch the show, keep us in line, and they told me there's some things that I just can't say no more, or you know, give my opinion about. So I'm just gonna stop talking right now. I really like this person though.
Jamie's scared, but
scared of paperwork. Scared of filing paperwork. You're damn right. I am.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So with that in mind, we do like to take a moment to remind our viewers to make sure they are hitting the like button and the share button on any of the content that they do run across and the platforms that we release our content on, as well as hitting that subscribe button. That way they'll always stay up to date on any of the content that we do produce. They'll always stay up to date on what Jamie and I are putting out in the world, so we can eventually infect the world to take it over. And part of our game plan in doing that is inviting our viewers to go to our website at conservativetalk.org and hit the sponsor tab in the upper right-hand corner or the lower right-hand corner and help us out with what you're able to, because every little bit will go a long way towards Jamie and I taking total world domination. We want to take a quick moment to also say a thank you to our affiliates, and our first one being Net News Network. So you can find Net News Network at netnewsnetwork.net. We want to say thank you to Veterans for America First and their media arm, Vet Voice. So make sure you are looking for Vet Voice on every major social media platform. So with that in mind, Jamie, how about you lay some wisdom on us?
Here's our final thought. With the final thought, I just want to say, continue to get involved. Continue to reach out to us if you are interested in running for office. I think with this episode, you got a lot of good nuggets on things and ways that we can all kind of not necessarily rebrand, but reinvent things or relook at things on how we do things when it comes to getting people involved in finding candidates. And so I think now's the time. If you've ever even had an interest in running for any office inside the state of Georgia, please reach out to us. We will definitely connect you with the right people and then kind of move forward from there. The other thing I want to remind everyone is district conventions are going to be on April 22nd. So go to your district chairs, your district representatives, your state party your state committeeman person, and try to get an idea on how you can get involved across your districts. I said person, I sure did.
He knows what I'm about to say.
Yeah. So anyway, April 22nd, if you are in the 14th district, our district convention will be at Tryon High School. And we are very thankful that our county line border friends and brothers and sisters in Chattooga County are going to be hosting this for us. So again, get involved as much as you can. If you want to run for office, give us a call.
And with that, well, and one more thing, it's still it's St. Patrick's Day. But with that, it's this is Conservatives Talk, and we will see you soon.
All I'm saying is if I was really Black Irish, I'd wear green. But I mean, come on.
Bye.